Okay, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are located in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on Amazon and Brexit, what you need to know in 2021. So now that the UK and EU have separated, there are a lot of changes that Amazon sellers need to know about. There are trade challenges, there's still a lot of ambiguity, and of course, Amazon fulfillment has changed as well, in addition to all of the changes that have taken place with the UK and EU separation. So luckily, we have two of our good friends in the industry and Amazon experts with us today, Carina and Jérôme. So just to give you a little bit of background of our friends, Carina is an Amazon consultant and expert. She actually spent about 7 years at Amazon in the retail and vendor management space, and she's the founder of E-commerce Nurse and Vendor Society, where she and her team help both the Amazon sellers and vendors to grow their business on Amazon. And Jérôme has a lot of experience in brand management and distribution. He has 20 years of sales and international distribution experience in Europe, Asia, North America. And he is the founder of eCommerce, which specializes in helping major multinational brands to grow their brand and sales on Amazon. And my name is Colleen Quattlebaum from Ecom Engine. I'm the marketing manager here. And so we have a couple different tools that I'll just briefly tell you about before we jump into the meat of our presentation today. So two of our tools that are available to Amazon sellers in many different marketplaces. Feedback 5 is a feedback and review management tool available in 16 Amazon marketplaces. And Restock Pro is an FBA inventory management software tool that supports sellers in 9 Amazon marketplaces. It allows sellers to do everything from inventory forecasting, profit management, shipments, stickers and labeling, kitting, really just the whole start to finish of your whole FBA inventory management process. So 2 great tools. If you want to learn anything more about them, please just let me know. But today's agenda includes, again, our experts, Carina and Jérôme, who are here to talk about the changes that went into effect January 1st. We're obviously at today's January 7th, so about a week in already. But with the holidays and New Year's, we wanted to make sure we could get as much attendance as possible. So today is our webinar, but we're already a few days in, and so we will give you an update on some of those changes that have gone into effect regarding fulfillment and logistics, also just the trade challenges that come along with Brexit, that implications, and what you can do as an Amazon seller or brand owner to make sure that your products are compliant in both the UK and the EU. So there's several things that you need to do to make sure you are protecting your brand in both areas. And then we have some helpful resources to help you with this transition. So before we get started, I would like to just launch a quick poll. So we want to just find out a little bit more about where you are located so we can understand our audience a little bit more and make sure that we are speaking to the group appropriately and making sure that we can answer questions that might be more relevant based on where you're located. Okay, so it looks like 65% are based in the US, 21% on this call are based in the UK, 6% in the EU, and 9% in other areas. So thank you all so much for just taking that poll. We certainly appreciate it. And now we will go ahead and jump into the first question. So I'm going to go ahead and close my slides because this is going to be more of a casual conversation. We really just want to hear from Carina and Jérôme directly and see their faces as we're talking. So let's kick this off with our first question. So again, a lot of changes went into place January 1st. So can you tell us a little bit about the trade challenges that have come along with Brexit for Amazon sellers and any fulfillment changes that we need to know about?
Really, I think the first thing to really highlight with Brexit and the way businesses are now working with Amazon is that before, businesses were looking at Amazon Europe, and that included the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and all the new marketplaces. Now it's about looking at Amazon as in Amazon UK and Amazon Europe. And that's a key thing to highlight, where unfortunately, there's this separation now. And so where businesses before were able to take advantage of this European fulfillment network and single market within the EU and the free movement of goods, that's no longer. So that's something that's the biggest challenge now that businesses are hit with, which then brings in a number of different challenges when it comes to trade. But before we probably go into more trade, I don't know, Jérôme, if you want to add to that in terms of the overall hit that sellers are finding right now.
Yes, it's like we tend to say that Amazon is a complicated beast, and to do business with Amazon is always a challenge. And if you're doing business on Amazon, you know that. And usually the rest of the world is more simple, and Amazon is complex. Now, in this situation has made the outside world actually has been more complex than Amazon itself. And it's to be fair, there's a few things which are clear for today, but it's unclear if the clarity of today will be the clarity of tomorrow, if that makes sense. And that's like, it's very important to be agile, to be successful on Amazon, but even more today. So it means a lot. Some things we believe are clear, but we don't know how things will react. And the deal which has been done is clear to a certain extent, but very unclear to a lot of extent. So it's the complexity of doing business in Europe has grown, that's for sure. And more than a given truth, which will be true for a long time, it's more about, okay, today's truth and taking decision with right information for today, but also being ready to change that. And the companies which thrive today are the ones which are able to change quickly. And to that extent, the bigger companies are suffering more than the smaller companies, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just to sort of jump onto that with companies, what we're finding is that there are businesses that, because of that ambiguity that still exists, some businesses that have decided to step away from Amazon Europe right now and solely focus, maybe UK businesses, and maybe some of those listening today are businesses that were in Europe, in other parts of Europe, but have decided to pause on that and just focus on the UK for now, because of not really being unsure of what that really means. At the same time, there's businesses that have fully invested and have already planned for Brexit, setting up and making sure that they can manage their business within UK and within Europe. And I guess then that moves on to Colin, what you mentioned about trade, and the real impact here, as I mentioned, with the European fulfillment network, is this free movement of goods, where before a business might have been holding their inventory in the UK and then listing their products on France, Italy, and Spain. And then when a customer, for example, in Spain places an order, the inventory is then pulled from the UK over to Spain. And so that's been great for businesses because it really holds minimum risk. They've been holding inventory in one location. If they're under a certain threshold, they've only, let's say, been VAT registered in the one country, and it's been less complicated. And of course, that changes. Although there's been this free trade agreement, we're still unclear what that free trade agreement really means. But there's still an element of bureaucracy. There's still borders now. There's still customs. And so that free movement that was just could be like you almost received a product from Germany the next day. We don't know if that's going to happen. And that's a bit of the unknown. And the biggest challenge for businesses right now is that effectively there's a border between the UK and Europe.
Yeah, and it's the funny thing is that you have a border but no customs, and so no customs duty or no tariffs. So basically for products, and that's you have to make a difference. Products which are produced in either the UK or Europe will have no customs tariffs. However, if you import a product from outside of Europe, then you will have to, if you import it in the UK, for example, you will have to pay for customs in the UK. And then if you want to move them again to Europe, then you will have to pay customs for the rest of Europe. So it does, like if you are bringing products from China, for example, then you will have to probably split your shipments if you've kept those two operations, not to be able to pay 2 times the customs. And that obviously, before you could have one stock which could fulfill all the demand from Europe. Now you have to have 2 stocks. And like everyone knows in logistics, more stocks means more costs. So like the Brexit from a business point of view means a lot of costs. And most probably you will have to look at your pricing and like for sure the logistics cost of Amazon or moving things around will impact your margins. And what we expect is the main effect is first is increased costs in the UK and probably some of the UK goods being increased in Europe. So it's not a very good news for brands or for consumers at least in the very short term.
Yeah.
So with all of those costs that you're speaking of with fees and shipping and logistics, what other costs or implications do you see that sellers should be thinking about when they're trying to decide where they should invest, whether it's UK, EU, or both? What other cost considerations are there?
Yeah, I mean, there's the first. Well, there are a couple of things. There's compliance. There's the tax compliance aspect of if you then decide that you want to be in the UK and then you want to be in Europe, and let's say hold your inventory in Germany, then of course then there's a VAT implication, and so then you've got to go through being VAT registered and so forth. There's also this compliance part where, you know, before you would be able to have, for example, if you're selling toys or electronics, your products would have a CE marking. They then need to now have not only a CE marking, but a UKCA marking as well. And so there's all these parts which almost makes you smile, because it's the same thing to some extent, but now it's that sort of segregation of, okay, then you need a UK specific compliance marking and you need a European marking. And then of course you've got this part where it just becomes a lot more complex and bureaucratic as well. So there's that double resource, like you were mentioning, Jérôme, as in you're going to have to start thinking about splitting those shipments, having inventory stored in 2 locations. And it just becomes, some businesses are already managing that. It's the businesses that have been taking advantage of Amazon's European fulfillment network by having inventory in one location that are going to feel the most pain from this, I would say.
Yeah, it's in the old days, which was 1 week ago, we would say, okay, in Europe, we could look at Europe, the UK and Germany. So Germany is the biggest Amazon market. UK comes second, and then far away you've got France and Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and now Sweden and Poland will come in the coming months now. So it was very clear, okay, if you want to address really Europe, you wanted to have at least UK and Germany. If not, you're losing probably 1/3 to 1/4 of the total market of the Amazon market, let's say. So nowadays it's becoming a bit more complex, because it's exactly, okay, where are you strong? So where is your market, your brand strong? So if it's strong everywhere and you've got a strong presence everywhere, then you probably want to get organized and have 2 fulfillment sets. So 2 warehouses, one in the UK, one in Germany, where you can put your products in FBA, or if you're a vendor, to fulfill orders. And that's okay. If you're a smaller brand or your results are not so good in every country, then you might want to take a decision. And like Carina said, there's some strong European, continental Europe based brands which have said, okay, we pause UK for now. And we're helping bigger brands which have said that exactly, saying, okay, we pause UK. We want to see how it's going, and then we'll start again. And okay, we take that cut. Other brands which were very strong in the UK have said, okay, we pause it in the rest. So it's basically taking a decision and the risk of, okay, how much were you making, and how much will you be losing? For sure, a lot of things are a bit unclear in terms of costs. My point is that you want to test things and you want to see how that costs goes out. And if you want to prepare too many things in advance, it will be very difficult because there's so much unclarity. So you might as well test in smaller quantities and see how things goes. The thing which Carina said is that obviously the VAT impact is that if you have a warehouse located in a country, you need to pay VAT in that country. So if let's say you're a brand based in the US, you already got an operation in the UK and you had a VAT number in the UK. If you want to duplicate that, there is some investment, at least in getting a VAT number, which is not a huge investment, but you need to get to the paperwork and those things.
Yep.
Got it. And when you were mentioning compliance, are there any fines involved, or what's kind of the risk if you're not compliant? You know, what do you see, you know, the UK or the EU or Amazon doing for those who are not conforming? Or any advice that you have there?
Jérôme, I'll let you jump in with the CE marking, because I know that from your brand management experience, you mentioned.
Exactly. So yeah, this is typical. So for example, CE marking and now UK CA markings. This is at least for a CE part, but I believe it's the same for the UK CA. It's for brands to certify themselves that their products are CE compliant or UK CA now. So it's not, you don't have to go through paying a lot of agencies, but you take the risk of certifying yourself your product. So from what we understand is, at least for the next 6 months, but probably because the CE marking is still valid at least for the next 6 months, I believe so, minimum, and then the UK CA will have to be implemented. So like in terms of fines and so on, I think the governments at least will be maybe a bit comprehensive and will like understand that you need some time to adapt. So we're not sure about what types of fines you would get on that. I've never seen anyone from the government go and test your CE product. What happens is if it's a consumer gets hurt by a product, that's when you get a problem, where if your CE marking was not correct. So I don't see the issue mostly on the regulations per se, outside of the customs thing of, okay, when are you due to pay customs, or when do you have to pay VAT? So it's more a fiscal thing than a like a regulation thing.
Right. And we do have one attendee is asking, what is the difference between CE and the UKCA mark? The UKCA stands for UK Conformity Assessment. Is that right? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so just to clarify the difference between those two was the question.
It smells the same, it tastes the same, it's the same shape, but it's not exactly the same. So it honestly, looking from outside, it looks a bit foolish. It's like, okay, it's exactly the same from what I can say or see, but it's just one is UK and one is Europe. So it's like go figure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's the same with a lot of things. So if we go over to talk about trademarks, so those businesses that have an EU trademark is no longer going to be the case within the UK. You now need, if you want a trademark, you're going to have to get a trademark for the UK and for the EU. So that's an additional cost as well. Now, for those businesses that already have an EU trademark, the UK will automatically be creating a UK trademark, and Amazon Brand Registry have said that they'll automatically manage all of that in the background. Now, I'm always a bit not 100% sure how that will work. So it's always good not to rely on that. And you as a business, just make sure you do end up with that UK trademark, and that you go into the brand registry and you do make sure that that UK trademark is within there. So that those are things which that's not going to cost businesses that have already gone with a trademark. It's adding bureaucracy as the UK separates itself from the EU, but for businesses going forward, then of course that's going to be the case. And it also goes again with the importing. Before, when you're importing goods, you get a VAT number and you get an EORI number that you can use across Europe when importing goods. Now, as a business, you're going to now need a UK EORI number to import product into the UK, and then you're going to need one to import into Europe, which would then be your EORI number. And so it just really, there's this theme here of duplication, I think, that nothing's really too different. It's just adding. So you've not got this single market. You've got the UK with all their requirements, and you've got the EU with their requirements, which are all pretty similar, but they are separate and they are different in the sense that they're asking for one and the other as well.
And is there any benefit Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Colleen. One thing I wanted to note on that is that actually in the deal they've agreed between Boris Johnson and the EU is that they've agreed that actually the UK has to follow more or less the EU rules. It's like it can be slightly different, but not too much, which like in law terms is probably difficult to define. But basically they've said, okay, we can only have no tariffs if you follow more or less our rules. So the UK said, yeah, we'll follow your rules, but with our own thing. So basically that ends up having CE and UKCA, which is the same, but with different names. Because actually the UK, if they don't want to have custom tariffs, they need to be the same as the EU. So they most probably they will replicate what's already existing in Europe. So for companies, that means that most of it is bureaucracy and papers, but actually it's if your products are compliant in the UK or in Europe, then it will be true in both sides. You just need to make sure that the markings and the logo and your labels are following those new rules, but most probably you won't have to do anything on the product itself.
Okay. And we have a few questions, so I'll go ahead and address these or mention these. So a couple folks here. Any tips on going through the process of getting a VAT number for various EU countries? Is this where you would recommend a tax expert or?
I would never. So you have very good companies, and we can name a few in Europe which are doing a great job, and they're very good in doing that, and they will do it very efficiently, and they will send you tons of documents you have to sign and tell you, okay, sign this little box here, this little box here, and Poland needs 20 documents, France needs 5, and this one. So, and there's no chance you can learn this thing. The cost is not very big. The only things you can notice, for example, Italy is a country which is the easiest to get VAT number. You can get it in a matter of days / 1 week, 2 weeks to get a VAT number. UK is probably one which is quite quick. Germany is very long. So Germany takes between 3 months to 6 months. So it shows you already the impact is, okay, if you want to move and to do business and have stock in Germany, okay, that means you probably have a lead time of 6 months already.
Okay. And let's see, a couple other questions here. What happens if you import a product from outside the EU in bulk, pack it in the UK, and put the product on Amazon to sell throughout UK and EU? Do you need to pay customs duties twice?
That's a tricky one. Basically, there's a rule. And I'm not sure about percentage. We could check that. Is basically if you have, I don't know if it's half of the value added or half of the value has been given in locally, then it's deemed as British. Now, each country's probably got a different rule on that. I know, for example, there was a lot of discussion in Germany for the made in Germany thing, because there was a lot of discussion even with the government was saying, okay, some products were imported from China, painted, and then made in Germany. So there is an element of you need to check country per country what's the exact rule. I would be. You need to be careful probably and make sure that it's really for the UK specifically. Or there's a rule of okay when you can say it's a British product. And to be honest, I would need to check the exact details. So yes, it's possible, but you have rules to be able. Having only unzip a poly bag and put it on its own is probably not enough to say it's British.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one seller here has both VAT in UK and in Germany. How can they ship products to Germany, not through UK? So I think the seller might be located in the US or another area, and so they're trying to ship products to Germany, but not through the UK.
I think that goes back still down to, you know, we're at the start of this whole split shipments of that. If you've got, before you might have probably been sending inventory and then sort of redistributing it, it then becomes that challenge that you probably then want to actually split that shipment before. So you've got one shipment going to Germany and then you've got one shipment going to the UK.
Yeah, and it goes down to the URI number. You need to have import numbers. It's not only that, you need also the URI number, EORI number, which will which you need to do the import. So the best idea, if you have a one big shipment, is that you talk with your logistics company and say how can they handle shipping it two ways. But obviously, it doesn't make sense to have it go to the UK first and then to Germany. You probably have to split them maybe from the beginning.
Okay. And I think you touched on this earlier, that some sellers and brands are delaying selling in the UK or EU till they kind of figure this all out. So one seller here is in Canada, said that they're considering limiting their Amazon business to the EU till they can fully understand all the implications from doing business from Canada to the UK. Is this a common go forward strategy? And if so, like, what is a reasonable time frame, do you think, for them to revisit, you know, the option of going into the UK or EU?
I think this is very subjective, and a lot of it depends on you as a business and really where your revenue's coming from and your revenue stream, because I think this goes back to what is the overall EU strategy, even pre-Brexit, where we've had this conversation with businesses, as in, when a number of business, when we talk about Amazon Europe, does it make sense for a business that's going into Europe to go into all marketplaces from day one? Is that the right strategy, or is the right strategy to go into one market, get yourselves established into that one market, and then expand into additional markets? So I would say that defining that EU strategy shouldn't necessarily be changed by Brexit. It's of course going to create a few more hurdles, but it's about thinking first off, what is the best market, and doing that research. Where's the biggest opportunity? Yes, the UK and Germany are the biggest markets within the EU marketplaces that Amazon's in, but is there that opportunity as well? Because of course there's got to be opportunity depending on that product type within that market, and really defining, is it Germany where that opportunity is, or is it the UK, or it might even be both of those. And I would always say do that sort of homework first to define what the best EU marketplaces would be, and define your EU strategy, even sort of pre sort of considering the Brexit challenges.
Okay. Yeah. And a question about stranded inventory here. So if, for example, you have a product that goes down to the EU and the inventory becomes stranded, they can't pull it out and send it to the UK, but can they pull it out and send it to another EU country? Like if it's stranded in Germany, can then they send it to Poland or somewhere else, but just not the UK?
Normally, yes. Yes, you need to be careful that if it's stranded, Amazon might not want to make it move at all. But normally, yes, it's like movements between inside EU, the new EU without UK is possible, for sure.
Yeah. It's just the removals to the UK. Amazon put a stop to it. I think it was around October, November that Amazon stopped that. So if there are any people listening that do have inventory, let's say, stuck in the UK, we've had a few inquiries actually that have come our way, as in, well, how do we can't pull our UK removals to the Netherlands, for example. Unfortunately, there is no answer to that. It's about finding a business or somebody in the UK that you've got an address where you can send that removal to, and then it's about just sending that removal back over to the country that you need it to be in, unfortunately.
Okay. And then in regards to really just changes to the UK with day-to-day operations with Amazon, are there any changes to order processing, the detail pages, Amazon advertising, product upload, any other day-to-day operations that are changing for UK Amazon sellers?
No, it's as complicated as before. That hasn't changed. That
Mm.
it
It will
hasn't
all, yeah.
simplified.
It hasn't simplified, yeah. It will, I mean, Amazon will always be evolving, but it's almost like at the same time, Amazon like to treat the way they work as global as possible. And you'll see that with Europe, although Europe sort of is behind the US. Most pilot schemes or new features will appear in the US first and then come to Europe, apart from advertising, which seems quite clean across the whole of the globe. But yeah, very much, yeah, as you say, it's the standard challenges as always, but it's always important anyway to just keep yourself in tune, because Amazon's changing by the day, regardless of Brexit.
Yeah, and to be fair, Brexit is not an Amazon thing. So Amazon hasn't changed. Amazon has adapted and just said, okay, we won't, because they could have kept in a way if there's no fees and no customs or no tariffs, they could have said, okay, we keep one system working, which they might implement in the future. We don't know. But they just said, okay, because of Brexit, we're just changing the logistics part. That's all. But for Amazon, they will lose a lot of money because of that, for sure. Because on the vendor side with Amazon, they were moving stock around very freely. Now they won't be able to do so.
Yeah.
And what about brand registration? Will they separate the UK from the EU?
Yes. Well, that's where you need to make sure that you've got, if you have an EU trademark, that you have an EU trademark and a UK trademark. Now, that's where sort of as I mentioned earlier, it's more making sure that you do end up, if you've got an EU trademark, that you have been presented then a UK trademark as well, and that is logged in the brand registry and going in there and logging it in and enrolling it if it hasn't separated out. I say if it hasn't, we haven't seen that yet. So that's just, this is all pretty new. We're in the first week of January, so still it's seeing what is, and I think even Amazon have been, are trying to figure it all out as well. It's just more that if you are then going to apply for a trademark in the future, you need to apply for a trademark in the UK and Europe.
And to be clear, the system here again, the system hasn't changed per se. It's just the recognition of the system of your trademark has to change because the law has changed. But the brand registration database, there was always a UK, you could have registered your UK brand and also your French brand and also the EU one. The thing is now EU ones are not recognized. For old ones, yes, but for new ones, the EU ones will not be recognized. So that's extra paperwork also.
Okay. So 2 questions that I'm going to kind of put together here. One is about VAT. Do I have to add 20% in terms of VAT to my final sales price in the UK? So if my starting point is $10 US, should I have to sell it at $12 US? And then kind of to piggyback on that, do you anticipate that we'll see an overall increase in retail pricing on Amazon UK as a result of Brexit? I think you kind of already mentioned that earlier too, that you'll probably see pricing increases, so it's not great for consumers or the sellers in a lot of ways. But should the sellers be increasing their pricing to accommodate for that?
So I'll jump onto that. So the main difference on prices online between the US and Europe, all countries in Europe, that in the US, your prices are without tax. In Europe, all our prices are with VAT. So obviously, if your price without VAT is 10, you need to show 12 on your seller account. So like you need to put 12 because you will have to pay 20% on your selling price to the government. So if you put 10, then the government will take 20. So if you're like 12, 20% of 12 is not 2, but right, you get my point, is that you need to show on your customer facing prices the price with VAT. So depending on the country, now it's more or less aligned. It's more or less 20% everywhere. Germany, for example, went down to 19% during the COVID just to support I think it's even lower. I can't remember. It's changing all the time. Anyway, so you have changes in Germany. They decided during COVID to reduce VAT to support the car industry, namely, but it applied to everything. So you need to follow up. And that's why having a tax advisor or someone who helps you with the VAT is also helpful to keep track of what's happening on all those VAT stuff, because it can become a bit tricky, because if your stock is in Germany, but you sell to Albania, for example, or you're selling on Amazon Germany with a stock which is based in Poland, and it's someone from Spain who's buying, okay, where do you pay your VAT? And those things can become a bit, okay, of a nightmare. If you have someone who's helping you, he will know where to record which VAT.
Yeah, and to add to that, actually, Amazon made an announcement. I think it was made a few announcements of that they're going to be collecting. Usually, you as a seller would have to collect your own VAT and file your VAT to, let's say, the UK tax office. Amazon is now going to be collecting tax, and they're going to be collecting tax on goods delivered from inventory that have been stored outside of the UK, with a parcel value of up to £135. And also they're going to be collecting VAT, and they're going to be responsible for collecting the UK VAT on goods delivered from inventory stored in the UK, irrespective of value, where the seller isn't established in the UK. So we're already seeing a bit where Amazon's having to take some element of responsibility there as well. So it's always good to make sure that you are receiving all those notifications. And I think that's a notification that we share with everyone as well.
Okay, and regarding that, Jerome, you mentioned that the UK, it's usually a fairly quick process to get VAT in the UK. So someone said that they have a product stuck in the UK and they're considering getting a VAT over removing the product. Is that something that you would recommend?
Well, it is typically you will have to pay the warehouse in the customs or at the harbor, so it's demurrage fee, and so it's you have to check how much they charge you every day, and it depends the value of the goods and what you and the cost of having a VAT number is not very big, but it can take you up to 3-4 weeks. So you need to be ready for that, and it's like depends on if it's 2 or 3 containers. Maybe you need to say, okay, that's probably costly. If it's 3 containers of something which is coming from China and you can't ship it anywhere, so just get a VAT, good VAT custom agent, which will try to speed up the process. And in good days, it probably can take less than that. So having a good partner there could be the best option, I would say. Mm-hmm. And we'll list that thing at the end of the discussion, right? The partners we would recommend.
Yeah. Okay, here we have a question about restock rates. They're currently the same across the UK and EU, which is odd. For example, if the restock limit is 1,000 units, that is across UK and EU countries, do you think that will change? So regarding, I think maybe like in relation to like IPI, how many units you can stock.
I believe that will then also, I mean, it's hard to say whether it will specifically change. I mean, a lot then is actually what we're finding is changing at seller level as well, down to your demand of your products. But yeah, I'm hard to say. Again, there's a lot of things that haven't changed that might not change right now. The biggest changes overall are a lot more fiscal and down to trade. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'll be able to speculate on that one unless you see anything there, Jerome.
Yeah, the thing you need to be careful is you're comparing EU with UK, as in EU one thing. It's like seller accounts which from each country are different. So the limit is not for the EU, it's for your account in Germany, your account in France, or your account in Spain or in Italy. So actually you're comparing apples with apples, not all the apples against one apple. So yeah, the limit is not for them. They're not looking at it as EU versus UK. They're looking at it, okay, your seller account in Germany, or your seller account in France, or your seller account in the UK. So the rules, once again, the Brexit is not an Amazon thing. So the Amazon rules within the whole of Europe, including the UK, should remain the same, more or less, in terms of internal Amazon rules.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take one more question, then we'll share some of the resources that we talked about, and then circle back to any other questions that come up. So this seller currently sells an electronic product in the US and is looking to expand to the EU and UK. He's wondering if he's allowed to list products under the same UPC, even though the product is different because they have the different electronic plugs for the US, UK, and EU. So will there be any negative implications across all three marketplaces? And can he use the same UPC?
Really, you've got to think, okay, because you're going to have a different plug for the UK than you are for the EU. So you're going to have a 3-pin plug versus a 2-pin plug. Now, you want to be very careful there from a customer experience point of view, because if all of a sudden you've got the same product and it gets into the UK market with a 2-pin plug, or vice versa, a 3-pin plug in a 2-pin plug, that's not compliant for those markets. And I don't believe it's legally compliant, as in not being able to sell an electronic 3-pin UK plug in the EU. So you've got to be careful there, because for a couple of reasons. One, in terms of customer feedback and negative feedback, but also if Amazon, and that's reported to Amazon, and a customer makes a complaint, last thing that you want is your listing being pulled or suspended. Now, I know a lot of businesses prefer to do that because you've already accumulated those reviews, right, in the US, and that's a lot of the time where we're having the same item across Europe. Helps, but not something that's you've got to be careful there. And Jérôme, I guess you've had experience with that as well.
Yes, that's tricky. Like you don't want to have the same ASINs, so same product Amazon product codes for different products. If that, you're heading for trouble. Even though specific now the UK is unplugged from the rest of Europe, you could say, okay, yeah, I don't really care. Knowing how Amazon works in their logistics is you might well end up with a UK product which ends up in a European warehouse. Like if a UK British citizen buys a product and is actually located in France and he gets it shipped back, but he returns it and it's returned to Amazon France and then sold to a French customer, then that's where you start to be in trouble. So you have to be clean on that part, and we would recommend to make different ASINs.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, so we already did the poll. So here, we just wanted to share some of the resources that we've kind of been touching on, that there are some resources out there. Of course, our awesome consultants here, Carina and Jérôme, their companies are eCommerce and eCommerce Nurse. But Amazon does have a lot of information on Seller Central. They also have a Brexit selling partner guide. But again, keep in mind, like, a lot of the regulations and everything are not an Amazon thing. It's a UK EU thing. So Amazon shares, how it's impacting things on Amazon, but they also reference a lot of the legislation pages as well, if you need to take a look at those. So you can find a lot of those links out there on Seller Central, but also that Brexit selling partner guide. There's a bit.ly, since it's a very long URL, but you can jot that down. And then some of the tax experts that we recommend, that Carina, Jérôme, and I, all of our companies have worked with and referred, and they're great companies. All three of these are great options if you're looking for a tax expert to consult with. Avask, who's based in the UK, Global E-commerce Experts, and Simply That. All three of those are, very knowledgeable UK tax experts and can definitely help you. So feel free to reach out to any of them. So I'll just keep this screen up so anybody can write down that bit.ly or that URL as needed. And then I'll just circle back, see if there's any other questions that just popped up. Let's see. We have another question again about brand registry, but we've kind of already covered that. Is that will brand registry, if you're trademarked in the UK, will it be taken care of in the EU? And the answer is no. Correct. You need to take care of your trademarks separately now.
Yeah,
Brand
the thing
registry
is,
separate.
you've got two levels. Is like for Amazon to recognize you as a brand owner, the UK, any trademark in anywhere in the world would make the system recognize you're owning the brand somewhere in the world. So that probably gives you the first level of access. However, if you would want to fight about get someone who's infringing a patent or copying a product, if your trademark is not local, you can't do anything because the system will say, yeah, you don't have a local trademark. So it will give you access to brand registry, but it will not enable you to remove anyone infringing a local patent, for example.
Okay. Any final words or advice, Carina and Jerome? Anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to share?
Yeah. Mainly it's just sort of what I touched on at the start, as in really it's about, this is the time when you as a business really need to think about what your strategy is, because before many businesses were sort of, it was quite easy to sell in the UK and then put your products on Germany. In fact, Amazon automatically did it sometimes. If you had the box checked, it would automatically happen. And so a lot of sellers didn't put much thought into it. Products were automatically translated. They just appeared there. They're all of a sudden selling on Germany, and Amazon's taking the FBA. Once there's a sale, FBA inventory in the UK automatically to Germany. So no one thought really about should I or shouldn't I? It's now that point where businesses are actually really thinking about, do I invest in this? It's no longer so easy. So it is something, and every business is different. There's no sort of one big box fits all. You've got to think about what your long-term goal is, and if you want to expand, or is there opportunity already for you to master the UK market first? Because a lot of businesses do spread themselves quite thinly at an early stage without really mastering one marketplace. So that's what I would really say, is take a step back, do some research, understand where that real opportunity is, and then consider what is your strategy in the EU. Is it to master one marketplace, then move on to the next? Is it to be out there with pan-European? Is it to be multi-channel, where you say, okay, I'm going to be in the UK and I'm going to be in Germany? I would definitely say that should be your first point of figuring that out.
Totally agree. I think that's very wise advice. On my side, I would say that doing business in Europe is complex because you've got the languages, you've got the different cultures, all of that. However, you could look at it as an opportunity, is that the one who gets inside EU today and is successful, the entry barrier is quite high. Like in the US, anyone can take your spot quite easily. In Europe, as soon as you've got a strong presence, so you need to build it, and it takes time. But once you have it, it's very difficult to take it back from you. Plus, you've got multiple countries, so maybe you lose a bit on one, but you can still win on the others. So it's like, I see it as it's a complex exercise, but it's one which is very rewarding with time because it's much more stable, let's say, from my experience. And the second thing I would say, that it's a market where you need to find the right partners, and you need to find the right partners for the VAT, for example, but you also need some support. And my advice is really look into finding someone which can help you localize your content, help you define your strategy. Like Carina was saying, where do you start? How do you do it? Because it is complex. And the ones who will be successful will be the ones which invest at the beginning and spend a bit of money in finding the right people to help them being successful. And you will see in the long term that will be a very good investment.
Great advice. Thank you very much for sharing. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We do have a few special offers from each of us who are on the call today. So from Ecom Engine, we have two tools, as I mentioned at the very beginning, Feedback 5 and Restock Pro, which are available in the UK and all of the EU markets, as well as many other marketplaces. So you're welcome to sign up with a 30-day free trial. Just use coupon code GLOBAL or reach out to me if you want to learn more about those tools. And then e-commerce and e-commerce nurse are both offering free consultations. So Jérôme and his team would be happy to have a 15-minute call with you, and you share some advice on how to maximize your brand potential on Amazon. And Carina and her team welcomes a call as well for sellers or vendors on defining your EU strategy. So feel free to reach out to either of them. There's a link there to schedule a call with their team or to contact them. And we will also send this out as a recording and an email shortly this afternoon. So keep your eye out for that. If you or anyone else on your team didn't get a chance to hear the whole thing, you can watch the recording. But thanks so much. Wishing everybody a great 2021. Hopefully, I know this is a lot of challenges for the beginning of the year already, but there's a lot of potential out there on Amazon. So best of luck to everybody. And thanks again to Carina and Jérôme for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the invite.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. Bye-bye.